Time is 5 p.m. and we'll call this call to order. Bastrop EDC Board reserves the right to convene into executive session at any time during the meeting regarding any agenda item in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code. I don't see any notifications, so I don't think we have any public comments as of right now. So we'll move on to moving number 3, regular business and presentations. 3.1, approval of meeting minutes of the Bastrop EDC regular board meeting of June 18, 2018. This is on page 3.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? 3.2, acceptance of Bastrop EDC's financial summary report for period ending June 30th, 2018. This is on page 6. And Angela.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? All right. Okay, so this is the June 2018 financial report for the EDC. We are 9 months in, or 75% through the budget year. Revenues are over expenses by just over $500,000.
Can I ask you a question
Yes,
before you
ma'am.
go to the next slide? And I apologize, I have a bad memory. Remind me why our expenses were $501,000 in March?
We were just talking about that, Tracy. It has to do with the Seton.
We
Is it
spent
the escrow
money.
account?
Okay.
She said there's going to be a reversal in July
Okay.
because of the bond.
Because of the bond. Okay. I was like, and I know I should have seen it sooner, but I
I have trouble remembering it too.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so did I go too far? Yeah, sales tax revenue. We continue to see healthy sales tax revenue collections each month, putting us at 6.33% ahead of budget. The EDC is 15.7% below forecasted expenditures. This page shows where we are currently on our ongoing capital outlay projects, such as the Agnes Street extension. This is the summary of the EDC's operating fund balance. This chart shows our total debt obligation, which includes the 2018 issuance. And that is the end of that. I did want to point out one anomaly that we found. It is on the 3rd page, I believe, of the financial statements. Let me see if I can find it from here. Did I go back? Yeah, there we go. This one right here. Contractual services. There was a miscommunication between us and finance, and so that is going to be rectified hopefully by the July summary report. They paid a bill out of that account, and that's typically only used for the Kershaw parking lot lease. So we're going to fix that. That's why it shows that we're over budget on it. But by July, we hope to have that rectified.
So it's just a misallocation. Should have been a different account.
We didn't communicate well enough on that to know that that's where it was going to come out of.
Okay.
And unless you have any questions.
Well, I'm sorry, on that very first slide where the expenses, I mean, they're just so much lower than they are every other month. They're only $19,000 compared to $80,000, $130,000.
I'm sorry, which page was that?
Very first page, sorry. That one. That one, right there.
Okay. Ms.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you come and
Ratton's
explain.
going to come address
It
that.
just seemed like would y'all sit on the money all month, or?
There isn't, I had to make an entry, so I did have to adjust off, I believe, I think it was around 90,000, and move it to the 2013 bond, because if y'all remember the discussions about the MLK project, we need to use the bond money first, and then use EDC's operating funds. And so they had already hit that many expenses into y'all's operating. Well, I've got this funds over here for the 2013 bond. I needed to reclass that.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
It
there was
so-
just
It was
this.
so different than all the rest
There
of the
was
month. I
just this 1 month of an adjustment that came out on that particular month, so it should go back up next month. with your regular
You don't have to go
expenditures.
back up, you can keep it at
Yeah.
19.
Well, no, it's probably going to go back up.
Either that or the ED made a lot more than we thought.
Do you have any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Move to accept financials as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Passes. On to item 3.3, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding lease agreement with American Tower.
If you'll recall, this was discussed during executive session at the last meeting. We did go ahead and include it in executive session for this meeting, just in case the board needed a refresher on what was discussed at the last one. If you don't require a refresher, then Cameron here, our attorney, is ready to explain the board's options. And we do need some sort of an action from the board so that we can then get with American Tower and tell them what that action is.
Would you like for me to explain the proposal real quick, just a brief summary?
I think that's a good idea. Chris, can you see him when he's okay? I didn't know if you needed to come to the mic so you could be.
Okay. So, just briefly, the current lease has a 5-year term for 4 terms for a total of 20 years. The value's $12,000 per year for the first year, and then it goes up each year. The total value, current value of the lease, not doing a present value interest or type of financial calculation here, just the raw dollar and cent number is $209,417.88. That's what the lease is worth from now until March 2029, when it's currently set to expire. What American Tower wants to do is just give you $50,000 from here on out, and that's all you're going to get. The advantage to that is if you were to sell this property tomorrow, that's good for you guys, because you would get the $50,000 now, and who cares about the leases down the road. But if you want to keep the property, then the lease value is certainly worth more. And legally speaking, the lease, you still have ownership of the property, and what American Tower wants to do is put an easement in perpetuity forever and ever for them to own essentially the property. And so not only are you receiving less value, you're receiving less ability and ownership and rights in the property. So that's why, legally speaking, it does not make sense to tie up that property with an easement if the BEDC wants to continue to hold that property. Do I have any questions?
Now, if I remember correctly, I mean, they're giving you 2 options, but we can just not do anything and keep the lease, the one we have, correct, until it expires?
Correct. You have 3 options today. You can take no action, and the lease just continues to operate. You can take action to enter into this agreement and do the easement with them in the $50,000, or you can take action to continue the lease and enter into an extension of the lease that they made reference to in their letter. But I have not seen the actual lease extension or anything. That it was just referenced in their letter, correct? Yes. So that's their proposal.
Thank you.
Correct.
But the proposal, if I read it correctly, was to extend the current lease, which we did get a copy of, right? Which would include the escalation clauses that happens every 5 years, I believe.
Correct.
And that's an additional 30 years on top of the 2029 deadline, is that correct?
Correct. Correct. The current lease is in place until 2029. You don't have to do anything until 2028, but you could agree to renew the lease for an additional 30 years, yes.
Which would be on top of the 10 that's left.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any pros on renewing it now? I mean, is there a benefit for us doing it now instead of just waiting?
Legally speaking, rates could change. You could get a better deal in 8 years. You could get a worse deal in 8 years. That's kind of the risk associated with it. As far as the lease, it's the same terms. So legally speaking, you're under the same terms that you're under now.
It was my understanding when we talked about this last time that we were just going to ride with it and not do anything with it. So has anything changed? Has anything other than like new information that would lead us to believe other than what we came up with the conclusion last time?
Not from me, no.
Just to be real honest and transparent, I thought we talked about it in executive session, said we weren't going to do anything, and I was kind of surprised to see it on the agenda, because I thought we left executive session thinking that we didn't have to take an action, and that was our answer. Did it get put on the agenda because it would be nice of us to politely say, we appreciate your offer, but no thank you very much?
Correct. If you want me to send a letter to them saying, no, thank you, but thank you very much, I need direction and a vote from you.
So I make a motion that we authorize Cam to sign a letter that you prepare that says, thank you, but no thank you, we'll just stay with what we've got.
A second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Item number 3.4, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding a review and discussion of the EDC's FY 2018-2019 draft budget. This is on page 41, and I believe everyone should have both packets in front of you.
Right, we separated them out this time so that you would find it easier to cross-reference between the budget portion and the memo portion. We thought it would be easier for you to be able to see the description of each budget line item along with the budget. Also, the version that was handed out at the last meeting was version 3.0. This one is version 4.1, which means that after we received Mr. Kirkpatrick's latest version of it, I spoke with Sam Kerr, the board treasurer, and we made some additional edits to it. All of those edits, anything that changed between the last version that y'all saw in June and this version, are highlighted in yellow for just ease of reference. We can go through it one page at a time, or y'all can take a few minutes and take a look at it.
I have a really
open to
quick, easy
suggestions.
question. If you go to the next page, which is page 43, it's just a curiosity. I see that fiscal year 2015 is audited ending operating balance, and fiscal year 2017 is projected ending, but on 2016, it doesn't say whether it's audited or ending. And I was just wondering, do we have an audit on I mean, I can see the number, it's $3,879,000, but there's no explanation, and I was just curious whether that's audited or not. 16. Okay, so we have an audit for 15, we have an audit for 16, and 17, we don't have the audit finalized yet. It's audited. Okay, so that needs to be corrected.
So I need to
on
make
that
those
cover
changes.
sheet.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So one of the reasons I like this is because I personally think when you're going over budgets that the devil's in the details, but you can also get lost in the leaves, and you need to be able to step back. So when I looked at this, I think about the fact that the Economic Development Corporation, this money is not a savings account per se. It's intended to be used to help the community and to drive economy, whether that's through jobs, and we all know our mission, but I noticed that we're in 2015, the ending budget was 3.2, it went up to 3.8, it stayed at 3.8, it went to 4.5, and we're talking about bringing it down to 3, which in my opinion is still a pretty healthy balance, but I like that we can very easily, we will be able to point to and drive on needed infrastructure, and we know that we're spending money wisely, and that's why that balance has gone down. So, Board, I know you're well aware of that, but I thought for the community, if they look at this and they're like, well, you ended at 4.5, now you're going all the way down to 3, I don't think that all the way down to 3 is really representative, and I think it's important that we're spending the money in a judicious manner, and I think the infrastructure projects that we've approved meet that criteria. That's my personal opinion.
And Angela, did you find out whether or not we needed a line item for the 108 cash reserve?
I spoke to Ms. Waldron right before the meeting, and she's going to come up and speak to that.
That item is not an expense, it's just a reserve of fund balance. So basically, it's out of that 3 million that you're talking about.
Yes, we
It's
don't
all
have
it is
to-
just a reclassification of that amount on your fund balance.
But we don't have to earmark it or designate it as.
It will be designated as a fund balance reserve for bond.
I just wanted to point out that we don't have to have this approved until the next meeting. August 20th is when we need to have approval so that we can send it to the council to wrap up into their budget for their presentations in September. So again, we can go through this now, or you're more than welcome to take it home and compare it line by line and come back with more questions. Contact me between now and then and we can go through it over the phone or via email.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so on the infrastructure project page, and I'm sorry, I have been very overwhelmed with city finances and had not spent the time reviewing this that I probably should have, but on the 921, not the downtown trail, we actually do
We're on
have...
page 52. Just
Thank
so
you.
that's-
We do have some grant monies that have been identified, so that number will come down. Also, on the technology MLK infrastructure, this is not taking into consideration, I don't think, the 2013 bond funds that are still remaining. So these numbers will come down, which will mean that the 3 million that Connie was referring to, it will actually go up because you're not going to be drawing it down by 4 million. You're going to be drawing it down by less. But we're still actually trying to get some of those final numbers, so it will go down, but how much it'll go down, I'm not exactly sure at this point. But before we get to the final round, we'll have updated those numbers.
Thank you, Tracy. Does anyone have any other questions or comments?
On professional services, my assumption is and I don't know what page it is, it's back a couple in front of infrastructure projects. 49, is that what y'all are saying?
Yes, ma'am.
It's budgeted at 99.5, I assume that's the search, but I don't know that for a fact.
Actually, Mr. Kirkpatrick said that he had already spoken with, I want to say the city manager and probably some of the board members, and he anticipated us having to do a strategic plan this year. And that's the bulk of that. So on the memo on page 63, the strategic plan is the first one we listed.
Okay, but the memo lists it, but it doesn't give them any numbers. So what was
Exactly.
the strategic plan budgeted at?
We were thinking about $75,000 for a good one. For one that gives us the metrics that we need, that we've talked about in the past. And he may be overestimating, but I would prefer to have.
Okay, then so the search that I'm talking about is really why the projected is over the budget this year?
That would come out of this year's budget, correct?
Okay, thank you.
No other comments, questions?
Tracy, I know that you are dying, I know it's that time of year, but if we're trying to approve this at the August meeting, my request would be that we get the packet before Friday. Even if we just get another 4.2 and then the last day we get a 4.3, but especially if some of the numbers are changing, it would be helpful if we could, I don't know how that works out with all of your other things, but for me personally, I'd like a little bit more time to look at the final numbers. Is that?
Angela, are we going to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Sean's currently working on finalizing all the projections for this year, and once those numbers come in, I think we'll be able to wrap it up.
So no action needed at this point. Staff will provide a detailed version of this so that we can approve this at the August meeting, because that's when it needs to be approved in order to go to City Council for final review. Okay, fair enough? Okay. The time is 5:19. The Bastrop EDC Board of Directors will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, to discuss the following. Number one, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, contract with Bastrop Fine Arts Guild. Number two, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, contract with American Tower Lease. Number three, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberation about the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, contract with Granite and Stone LLC. Number four, Section 551.071, consultation with the attorney, 551.072, deliberation about the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations for 921 Main Street project. And Section 551.074, personnel matters, executive director position. The time is 6:49. Bastrop EDC Board of Directors will reconvene into open session to discuss and consider and take any action necessary related to the executive sessions noted herein.
On Section 551.071, I move to prepare an amended agreement prepared by our legal counsel and signed by our board chair, Cam Chavez, for the Lost Pines Arts Center to cure the default.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Carries. Going to item number 3.
I make a motion regarding item number 3 that we rescind all contracts and all offers made to Granite and Stone LLC.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Number 4, Section 551, no action needed there. And number 5, which was the personnel matters, that just want to give an update that we have a generous pool of candidates, and the board and the search committee feel confident that we will be able to field an executive director off of those candidates, and we are moving forward with the timeline and actually agreed to bump up the timeline in executive session to get the search done a little quicker, so we can make sure we get it filled and move on from there. The time is 6:50 and we are adjourned. Thank you.